Do you want to do something else?
Wind River. Written and directed by Taylor Sheridan, who wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water, and has described this.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And described this as being a third part of a trilogy that explores the modern American frontier. So basically, the story is Wyoming, incidentally, which is interesting. I thought that you had teed that up on purpose because that.
Yes, obviously.
You did that on purpose. That's why.
Speaking of Wyoming.
So it's a very, very chilly and deliberately cold story. It begins with the snowbound death of a young woman. And this brings together two mismatched outsiders. Jeremy Renner plays this grieving tracker, Corey Lambert, who is wrestling with his own personal demons. Elizabeth Olsen is the FBI agent, Jane Banner, who is brought in from sunnier climes to investigate the crime because they're on Native American reservation, and so there's a lot of stuff about who actually has jurisdiction here and who actually is in control. She's brought in completely from the wrong place, completely fish out of water, and completely inappropriately attired for the freezing hell which awaits.
I'm Jane Banner.
You by yourself?
Yeah, it's just me.
No, Ben Shoyo. I'm the tribal police chief. That's Corey Lambert with Fish and Wildlife. He's the one who found the body. And this is his father-in-law, Dan. You don't do nothing.
We got the same job, eh?
Well, I'm sorry to meet under these circumstances. So, do you want to show me the body? I don't mean to be rude. I'm just freezing my ass off here, so the quicker the better.
Yeah? Well, that's going to get a lot worse if you go out there dressed like that.
Your body's 5 miles on snowmobile. I'm afraid you'd be dead by the time we got there.
I got the call when I was at a weapons course in Riverton, so this is what I've got.
Well, you should have a winter gear bag in that truck.
Well, no, that's not a government vehicle. It's a rental. I flew in from Vegas, so I'm just the closest agent to the scene. You don't think I can make it?
Oh, you're from Vegas?
No, I'm not from Vegas. I'm stationed there. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I'm sorry. If we're gonna keep having this conversation,
Let's get you fixed up inside. It's gonna be great.
Thanks. Sorry, excuse me. Thanks.
See what they send us.
You can hear from that clip, I mean, you can hear the wind, you can hear the chill, you can hear the cold that gets right through into the bones, and everybody thinks that she's completely out of water. What then happens is that she wants to make a case for this being a homicide, but in order to do that, for various kind of jurisdictional reasons, she needs a tracker, so she needs to team up with Jeremy Renner's character, who is from the Fisheries and Wildlife Department, and together they go on the trail of this murder, trying to understand how it's happened. And it's something which chimes with his own personal tragedy. And during the course of it, you see her character go from being a sort of very sharp, plucky, but basically innocent outsider, starting to understand what this world is and what this world is about. So the film has, a mystery plot and a mystery story, but so much of it is about the background. It is about the environment that it takes place in. The writer-director has described it as being about a land, people being forced to live on a land where people were not meant to live. And this is described as a land of snow and silence. And it's a film which has a great sympathy for these characters who are sort of being pushed to the edges of society, and also a kind of great awareness of what that has done, what kind of world that has created for them. It's got a really, really strong sense of place and a really strong sense of atmosphere, and it's very well cast for Jeremy Renner, who is somebody who does all those emotions on the inside. He's not somebody who does big, he looks sometimes very, very placid, but you get the sense that there's a lot more going on behind. And he's very well cast. I think it's one of his best roles. It reminded me, oddly enough, of a very, very different film called Mystery Road, the Ivan Stone film, which is set in the outback. And, so from frozen Wyoming to this kind of, this sort of scorching heat. And that's the story of, here we have this a tracker caught between two worlds and, being on the one hand part of the indigenous community, but also outside it, and that community being at the sharp end of violent crime and trying to unravel all the different threads. And so much of that, again, is to do with the mosaic of the world that it comes from. And although I said one of these is snowbound, the other is the most different kind of desert environment, they both still have that Western feel about them, that kind of frontiers feel. And they both have this lingering sense of melancholy, of sadness, of underlying tragedy. I think it's a very powerful film. I'm not sure that it's absolutely... I mean, I've seen some reviews which think it is really, really brilliant. And interestingly enough, the person whom I sat next to, who really didn't like Mother, really, really loves Wind River. And I really liked it. But I think it gains weight from being part of this kind of loose trilogy of stories. And what I like about it is it's not so much the murder mystery story, it's the environment, it's the atmosphere. I mean, there are things about the story that I am unconvinced by, and there are things about the conclusion of the story that don't quite work for me. But in terms of setting us up in that world, this chilly, cold world in which somebody is sort of clawing away at the snow and coming to an awful realization about what's, the iciness that lies underneath that, I think it does that very effectively.
The movie is Wind River.